Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield The Podcast. So it is no secret that big government and big pharma have a giant revolving door. And that revolving door is making some people very, very wealthy, specifically people coming from the FDA, people that are involved in the regulatory process of drugs that are supposed to be approved. And then what happens? They end up getting big jobs with big pharma, the big pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, Moderna, you name it. And so they go to work for big pharma. And then what do you think the message is to the people working inside the FDA that is tasked with approving these drugs and trials and all these things? It's go ahead and approve it, and then you'll get a big job too. At least that's my assessment, and it is my own personal opinion. I want to show you real quick the picture of a woman. This is Patrizia Cavazzoni. She is the former head of FDA's drug center. She has now joined Pfizer as a chief medical officer. She left the agency in January. Go figure, right when President Trump takes over. She comes in and now goes to Pfizer. But this is not the first time this has happened. A revolving door is probably an understatement. So with that, I want to remind everybody to please make sure that you visit the Wellness Company. We're going to get Dr. Peter McCullough on here in just a moment. The Wellness Company is so great. These are the kits that I'm talking about, folks. They got great prescription medications, ivermectin in here. You've got antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics in this one kit, and they are fabulous. Every home should have one. Do not be without it. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT, and you're going to be safer for it. It could save a life, folks. And I tell you, I have many of these kits. They have different ones. I have many of them because I feel that strongly about being prepared for anything. So again, twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. So I want to talk to Dr. Peter McCullough, our good friend, about this revolving door inside the FDA, CDC, into big pharma, and what risks does it actually pose to the consumers, to Americans? And with that, I'd like to welcome the great Dr. Peter McCullough. He is with the Wellness Company. Dr. McCullough, it's great to see you.
Grant, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm broadcasting from San Diego at my daughter's place, so you'll hear some noise potentially in the background as they fire up the coffee. But I was stunned when I heard about Patrizia Cavazzoni and her story. Now she's a pharmaceutical executive. She works for Pfizer. She leaves Pfizer, and then she goes into the FDA to head up the powerful Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, CDER. CDER is where all the big drugs have to go through to get approved by the FDA. She's there for several years, particularly during Pfizer's vaccine and their drugs, by the way, that are related to vaccine handling vaccine problems like Eliquis. And then after she does her tour at the FDA, she goes back to Pfizer, and now it's reported she's worth up to $17 million for that journey.
So how is it appropriate that you're taking, it's one thing to be working in government, you leave your government job and then go to big pharma. I think that's bad enough. I think there's problems with that. But to be working at the drug company, it's almost like they're inserting, a wolf into the henhouse kind of thing. Like, we're inserting you there, and the wink and a nod, go approve all our drugs, and then come back to work for us, and we'll make you wildly wealthy.
Other industries don't allow this. Financial services industry, even in medicine, we sign all kinds of non-competes. There's all kinds of ways to firewall influence and an unfair influence by industry. Our regulatory agencies are rife with corruption. No wonder no one inside government has expressed any concern regarding Pfizer. And don't forget, Pfizer over the years has paid billions of dollars in fines. They've been convicted of many charges as a company. And of course, they've led the most widely used COVID-19 vaccine. And there still is not a single government official who stepped up and voiced concern over Pfizer's vaccine.
So ultimately, I look at the consumer and the American public, the consumer that's using any of these drugs, and I guess I ask it rhetorically. I don't think our best interest is being put at heart here. I don't think the American public is being put first. I think profits are being put over health and safety.
One thing's for sure, Grant, is safety is not being put first. We should have a culture of safety. No matter how promising the product is, like a vaccine, if it's not safe, it should not be advanced on the public. We've seen now an abrogation of concerns for safety, particularly in vaccines. So the COVID vaccines for sure, but now the RSV, respiratory syncytial virus vaccines, the FDA just slapped a warning on Pfizer's RSV vaccine and GSK's vaccine of causing Guillain-Barré syndrome. Grant, that's paralysis. You take a shot and you get ascending paralysis, can go on the ventilator or die. And yet that's not the advertisements that we see. We don't see that weighed out, that here, take an RSV vaccine, but you could get Guillain-Barré syndrome. What we're seeing now in pharmaceutical advertising, which is done by the agencies, the CDC and Health and Human Services is doing vaccine advertising on behalf of the companies. They are violating truth in advertising laws, the FDA, U.S. Drug and Cosmetic Law, and the Lanham Act. They're violating all of these and not presenting the risks and the benefits to the consumer.
Well, we saw this certainly during COVID when the government was running all of these COVID ads, get the shot, get the vaccine, get over and over again. They're running these ads and you're having to think, man, this certainly seems like a conflict of interest. And what a benefit to the pharmaceutical companies that the federal government's going to pay for your nationwide commercial or worldwide commercial advertising.
Well, it's true. And the only two companies that have direct-to-consumer advertising on TV is U.S. and New Zealand. And the New Zealand Public Health Agency is also advertising vaccines on behalf of the company. And it doesn't stop with COVID. So we know, for instance, the CDC advertises influenza vaccines and RSV vaccines. Now, recently, newly appointed and confirmed HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy has asked the CDC to take down a false influenza vaccine advertising campaign. And that campaign was stating falsely that the flu shot reduces the severity of flu, which it does not.
So the flu shot does not reduce the severity. So I've always heard that was the case. You know, I haven't been all that much focused on flu shots, but that's news to me.
No, the flu shot, if you look at the package insert, it's only approved to reduce the risk of getting the flu. Doesn't reduce the chances of hospitalization and death. Now, someone like you, Grant, your chances each year of getting the flu are way less than 1%. So it's not a common thing. We are in a particularly more severe flu season this year. We're coming out of it now. It's going to be March soon. But that's partly because of home flu tests. So now you can do a home flu test. People are doing it at home, turning positive, then going into the hospital, getting more tests. It's partly due to that. It's also partly due to a bad flu shot. Remember, the influenza vaccine is supposed to cut down on flu. So if we're having a bad flu season, and most of the high-risk people, Grant, elderly people, they all take the flu shot. So it's very high compliance rates. So if we're having a bad flu season, that's an indictment that the flu vaccine is essentially worthless. And now what we have is we have a situation, and I'm afraid this is true, Grant. Many publications are pointing to this. Both COVID and the COVID vaccines have weakened population immunity, making us more susceptible.
Do you think that started with the COVID? Is because the flu shot and the COVID shot are different, right? The COVID's this mRNA deal, and the flu shot's the old-fashioned kind of that's got a little bit of the virus in it, right? Is it the COVID shot that you think weakened immunity for the American population?
I do, and it's through a process, Grant, called IgG Subclass switching. So as we're exposed to this never-ending production of spike protein with the genetic vaccines, the body's immune system gets fatigued of seeing it. It switches from more efficient IgG1 and IgG2 subclasses to IgG4, which is useless, doesn't even bind anything. And it's called immune imprinting. And so our immune system is probably being misdirected now by these COVID-19 vaccines. And I think it could be happening with COVID as well without the vaccines. But I'm seeing this in my practice. People are more and more susceptible to the common cold, to RSV, to influenza, even bronchitis. And I think most doctors would agree something's happened over the last 5 years.
All right. I always ask this question because I'm not sure that we have an answer to it. The two things that happen is we have the COVID shot and we have COVID. Could COVID be the culprit in all of it?
Estimates are 97% of us have had COVID, Grant. I know you and I have had it. 97% of your audience has had it, and roughly 80% took the vaccines. So it's going to be impossible to untwist this. I can tell you it is a call for all of us to work on improving our preventive health. So, I see you out in Dallas. You're always working out, and you're such a fit specimen. I have to tell you that, I also work out. I don't drink alcohol. I take nutraceuticals and supplements. And something I do every day, Grant, is I do a nasal spray and gargle every day religiously to prevent getting common colds and the flu.
All right, let me ask you while I got you on here too. The wellness company certainly has products that can help with all of this. twc.health/Grant. Use promo code Grant. What are some of the things on the website there that can help us prepare for the common cold and the flu outbreaks?
Well, let's talk about prevention first, Grant. I think everybody should get Wellness Company Immune Mist. Immune Mist. There's a nasal spray and a throat spray, and do it twice a day, just like you brush your teeth. Do it twice a day. Grant, it turns out that you'll have a virus up in your nose for about 5 days before you get the sore throat. The lymphatics drain back to the throat. That's the reason why you feel the sore throat. The infection's not here. It's actually in the nose. So you have about 5 days advance notice that if you just did it twice a day, and multiple studies show this, you can essentially prevent getting viral infections. I wish I would have known this through COVID. I had COVID 3 times. The last time was pretty bad. A randomized trial by Baumforth and colleagues, and a whole variety of sprays used. They used a xylitol-based spray, reduced the chances of getting COVID by over 70%. Now, a large study in Lancet Respiratory Diseases showed that a VIX immune defense, just used on demand, not used regularly, that reduced colds and infections by about 25%.
Wow.
So I can tell you on demand is not good enough. I think you should do it twice a day. I just got off the plane yesterday. As soon as we got off the plane, my wife and I did the spray. And I've been doing this religiously, Grant, now. And I'm proud to say I've gone 7 months without a cold. I've never gone a year in my adult life without a cold. And I'm going for it this year.
All right. So I'm actually with you on that. I'm usually good for 1 or 2 a year. And so I'm going to do this. I didn't even know about it. Immune Mist. You see the website up there, twc.health/Grant. That's also where you can get these great medical kits. I've got the field kit back here as well. You and I have talked about this. This is the big one for, as you call them, the preppers like me, Doc.
Grant, I know you're a prepper, and you like it. You have all kinds of guns and ammo and stuff. But I can tell you, I'm traveling, visiting my daughter in San Diego, and I have one of the kits with me. And, every time I travel, it turns out somebody needs the kit or, something happens. And the kids have antibiotics that cover all the common infections. They have Zofran, which is the most useful drug to cut intractable nausea and vomiting. Recently, my writing partner and our friend John Leake got some type of intestinal dysentery. And John was going to end up going to an urgent care hospital, but he was saved by a wellness company emergency kit. Everybody should have these on hand. It's one kit prescribed per person. Follow the guidebook. If you need to get on telemedicine, get the doctor involved. But there's been so many media anchors. Actually, Brandon House was saved from a hospitalization recently by a wellness company emergency kit.
Well, they're amazing. I've told you I've used this amoxicillin to kill my strep throat. I've used the ivermectin when I thought I was coming down with COVID. Both of those are in this kit. So great advice from the doctor. And I'm telling you, I love that I've just watched this podcast and I've sold myself on Immune Mist. I'm going to do that as well. So twc.health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT on that. I promise no regrets on that front. All right, Doc, this was funny. I love, usually they're coming at you at all directions, right? They're always the mainstream media. Well, I know you become friends with Joe Rogan. He has such great respect for you. He has Woody Harrelson on the program. And I want to play the clip from Woody Harrelson and then get your response, because guess what, Dr. McCullough, you came up in conversation. Here we go.
Yeah, Peter McCullough, boy, he took a lot of hits big time during
most published doctor in human history in his particular field of study. I mean, he's a well-respected, rock-solid, credentialed.
And it was one of his videos I tried to send right after I got it. I tried to send to people. No. Yeah. They were so quick. I've never seen such quick censorship or editing, almost impressive,
It was creepy.
So you might have been one of the most censored guys out there. I'm joining you, not too far behind you. But first question for you, Dr. McCullough, do you pinch yourself? You got Woody Harrelson, Joe Rogan talking about you, bringing it up out of the blue, and here you are, the cardiologist from Dallas. All of a sudden you're you've been on the front lines for a while, but man, it's got to be surreal.
It is surreal. I'm just a doctor trying to help patients. Now, I have been publishing advancements. The McCullough protocol for early treatment of COVID-19 became the most widely used protocol in the world, attributed to saving tens of millions of lives, sparing hundreds of millions of hospitalizations. And now McCullough protocol-based spike protein detoxification, developed with the wellness company, is far and away the leading approach of people dealing with long COVID and vaccine injury syndrome. So I've done my efforts. I've been critical, as you know. I've been critical of both administrations, Biden and Trump, but I've done my work and contributed to solutions. And you've played a key role as an independent media star in bringing solutions. So we're not just complaining, Grant. We're actually bringing constructive approaches to the population. Where our government agencies have failed us greatly, and academia has failed us greatly. No chief of medicine from the Mayo Clinic or Harvard or Duke or anywhere came out and actually gave advice on what we should do.
Right.
They've been silent the entire time.
Do you see any movement? Because I like to say that I hope we do, but, I'll go meet with doctors if I've got an issue. I told you I had this herniated disc, and I start to pick these doctors' brains, whether they're a spine guy or whether they're just an internist. I'm not really seeing movement on this. Like, nobody wants to admit they were wrong.
Can you imagine? Let's take the COVID vaccines. That's been the worst of it. Can you imagine a doctor took these shots without knowing what was going to happen to their body? Because no one could have known, Grant. Right. No one knew. Most doctors took the shots. I was offered the shot, I think, December 11th, 2020. No one even knew what could possibly happen then. They took these shots right away. They then had their family, their spouses, their kids take the shots, and then they suggested them, actually pushed them, and in some cases mandated them on their patients. And now it turns out the COVID vaccines are a bust. They are not safe in any way, shape, or form. They certainly weren't effective. 5 years of the pandemic. And they're so deep into a giant mistake, very few are waking up to this in horror. Now, I did interview on my show Dr. Bosworth, who is a doctor, and she's relatively well known for the keto diet. And she does these live programs on YouTube, and she's talking about the keto diet, and all of her followers are pounding her about the COVID vaccines and saying, listen, we're getting damaged by these vaccines and we're losing loved ones. So finally, one day she confesses that she's wrong about the vaccines. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just, she's not a professor of medicine. She's just a popular doctor who does a podcast. I mean, when is the chief of medicine from Mayo Clinic or Harvard or University of Michigan or UT Southwestern, when are they going to come out and say, you know what, we made a mistake? Now, listen, mistakes are made in medicine all the time. The analogy I use, Grant, is smoking.
Yeah.
Smoking, in 1949, Rosenhill presented the data. Smoking causes lung cancer. Medical community, no, smoking is safe. And doctors and nurses were advertising cigarettes. This goes on from 1949 to 1964. And Luther Terry, the Surgeon General, calls a meeting in Washington. All the big chiefs of medicine are there. They're going, you should see the look on the faces of these doctors. They were pale. They looked nauseated. And Luther Terry tells them smoking causes lung cancer. These guys almost fell out of their chairs. And then it took another 20 years as we went into the great tobacco settlement. So let me tell you, medicine's been on the wrong side of things. They were on the wrong side of smoking for a long time, and they're on the wrong side of these COVID shots.
You know what amazes me, though, is by no means am I a doctor. I mean, obviously. But I knew early on, I'm not putting something in my body that nobody tested. And I don't have to be a doctor to figure that out. And I would like to think that if I was around in the 1940s, I would have said, you know what, taking smoke into your body, that if a kid did it and the first thing he does is cough, it can't be good for you. Like, I mean, we don't know what causes cancer, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to think that taking smoke into your body is a good idea. And yet everybody pushed back about this stuff.
It's like a group think. It's almost like an ideology or a religion. We talked about vaccines. I think vaccines is the worst. It's like a religion. Vaccines are accepted based on faith, not by reasoning or evidence. And this has gone on. It goes back to the original smallpox vaccine. It's taken on faith. Smoking is an interesting example because, the smoke is grayish black. The lung cancers are grayish black. The doctors are taking them out. And in the book, The Emperor of All Maladies by Mukherjee, which won the Pulitzer Prize, the lead surgeon from Johns Hopkins is smoking while he's taking out these blackened lung cancers, declaring that smoking does not cause lung cancer. And then he himself dies. He goes to the grave with a cigarette in his hand. This is a doctor, the best surgeon at Johns Hopkins. And you can't make this up, Grant.
No, you can't. All right, so I guess I'll ask you a tough question because there's a lot of people that get mad at me for saying, I do think there's a place for vaccines if they work, right? And so what happens if there's some kind of bioweapon? I believe COVID was actually, but if there's another bioweapon that is really dangerous, that's going to kill kids, and that's what everybody was so scared of. And now I don't believe the government on anything, but something could come down the pike that actually is really dangerous. And then now they've cried wolf to me for so long, and I don't believe them. And I need a vaccine could save people. Is that a legitimate scenario, or are we at the point where we're never trusting again and there may never be a vaccine that actually works again?
For infectious diseases, I don't think a vaccine will ever save us, Grant, because if we carpet bomb people with vaccines, the new bioweapon, the new virus, bacteria, fungi, it just adapts to it and becomes resistant. So a vaccine isn't going to save us. Now, vaccines can protect selected at-risk populations. We have nothing else to offer. So during COVID-19, I was the co-principal investigator of a vaccine program called the Imodulon vaccine, a cellular-based vaccine that the Trump administration, Operation Warp Speed, did not advance. But, I had outlined to the government a program where about 2.7 million people should get a COVID shot. At that case, and it would be nursing home residents and those in congregate living facilities. So I'm not against vaccines, but it would have to be limited protection. If you carpet bomb everybody with a vaccine or with an antibiotic or anything else, you're going to get resistant strains.
All right. Did you always know this, or is this from your research after the pandemic?
This is largely research after the pandemic, although many, would say, listen, to mass vaccinate the entire population would be a mistake. I give credit to one immunologist, a former industry worker, Gert Vanden Bosch. He said that consistently. He says, don't mass vaccinate the population in the setting of a highly prevalent pandemic because you'll breed resistant strains. It's very different than mass vaccinating once the disease is gone. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, we do that with polio, which is a particularly effective vaccine. And so once you mass vaccinate when the disease is gone, it doesn't have a chance to come back. So it's a very different strategy.
Understood. It's fascinating stuff. Before I let you go, just for a little fun, seeing that Woody Harrelson was talking about you, I couldn't help but pull his Saturday Night Live monologue, which set everybody off that a Hollywood guy would actually say something like this, but I'll play it for you and then get your reaction.
Hey, so the movie goes like this. The biggest drug cartels in the world get together and buy up all the media and all the politicians and force all the people in the world to stay locked in their homes, and people can only come out if they take the cartel's drugs and keep taking them over and over. I threw the script away. I mean, who is going to believe that crazy idea?
So it turns out that crazy idea was real life, wasn't it?
Can you believe it? To this day, this cartel, what we call the biopharmaceutical complex in my book, Courage to Face COVID-19, that's it. You can't exist unless you keep taking these shots. And, essentially adults quit taking them. Some healthcare workers and providers around the world still have to take them. And it still is on the routine childhood vaccine schedule. But Daniel O'Connor at TrialSite News broke the news that there is no state school system or even public or parochial school system that is requiring the COVID shots. So that they do require the routine schedule, but they're looking away when the parents show up without the COVID shot. So fortunately, yeah.
It amazes me that there's no schools left because they were so hell-bent on it. And I just read an article, I believe it was a young teen who was going for a heart transplant, and they were still mandating she had the COVID shot before a heart transplant at this hospital. And, here we are, as you said, 5 years later. It's just insanity to me.
Well, I see patients who are heart transplant candidates and those who are recipients, and I can tell you the COVID vaccine would ruin a transplant procedure because it would cause the immune system to be activated against these foreign antigens and more likely for the recipient to reject the heart or kidney or other organ. And then if one takes an organ from someone who's been vaccinated, let's say the organ donor, then that organ is going to actually have this vaccine spike protein in it. That's going to cause a problem. So you would never want to cause an immune problem in people who are going to get immunosuppressants and at risk for rejection. So that's the last population to get a COVID shot.
Let me ask you a personal question. I've never asked you this before. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Are you, Dr. McCullough, doing better now than you were before COVID? Because you were wildly successful in your own industry and field of study. Now you're, world famous. Are you doing better now, or were you better off before? And I guess it's relative depending on what you describe as better off. But curious as to your thoughts.
That's an interesting question, Grant. Joe Rogan pointed out I was the most published person in my field in history in this interaction between heart and kidney disease. I was recognized to be the world expert on that. But the pandemic brought on, I think, far more important work. My work done now with the early treatment protocol and then detoxification, how to handle COVID vaccine injury syndromes, that's actually providing useful information, relief, reducing hospitalization and death to the entire world. So in a sense, the COVID pandemic, and I'm older, I'm a senior in my career, the COVID pandemic has been the capstone, the most important segment of my career in a life. And I feel blessed that in a sense, I was positioned at the right place at the right time to make the contributions I did. I wouldn't change anything, Grant.
Are you happier now?
I feel far more fulfilled. I think happiness is always buttressed against, like you have, frustration. There's frustration that other people can't see as we do. But, for these great times of controversy in the world, I mentioned smoking as an example. Some saw it early, but many did not. In many ways, we now have a commission. We actually have a great mission. And I give great credit to you, Grant, in your podcast, this independent media. Now is the rise of independent media so important to the world?
Well, there's a lot of us out there doing it, and I would include you in that list too. With your podcast and the things you're doing with your Substack is just phenomenal. And heck, you go on every podcast under the sun, which really helps spread this message. But we always appreciate you coming on the program. You've become such a good friend along the way, Dr. McCullough, and I'm grateful to you and all you've done to really help people stay safe and healthy. And I appreciate the wellness company as well. God bless you, Dr. McCullough, and enjoy San Diego. And thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, let me just give you one more reminder. This, again, is the kit. Dr. McCullough mentioned it. Everybody should have one of these. There is a travel kit as well. You got all kinds of stuff in here that you need. There's 8 of the most necessary prescription medications. And then there's a series of other kits. I would urge you to go to the website and peruse twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. And one more time, at that website, I am going on today and I am getting myself the Immune Mist. And I will use it, as Dr. McCullough said, twice a day. That's going to do it for us. Again, use the promo code GRANT for 10% off, twc.health/grant. That'll do it for us. God bless all of you. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thanks for watching.